So I'm recording this. I was sleeping after reading Christopher Bolin's Solving 9/11, and the proof is overwhelming. Israel was involved in 9/11. This is something that is going to be very hard to address. There should be mobs outside of every Israeli embassy in the United States when enough people wake up to the fact that Israel was involved in 9/11. Now, I was trying to get to sleep. My headache was keeping me awake from the concussion, but I have to say, from Silverstein with his insurance of the towers, all of the Jews not showing up to work that day, the messaging service from Israel, what is it, Dago, or I forget. I'm going to take notes and have to study this. My memory isn't as good as it usually is right now. But it's obvious that Israel knew that 9/11 was going to happen. And no, it's the Red Pill Bulgaria says, "Hey Pat, not sleeping yet." No, I'm not. I was actually having a discussion. A loved one wants me to move to, yeah, oh, Dago, yes, thanks. A loved one wants me to move someplace safe, to move to engage in white flight and go to some white area and raise children there. And I can run. I know lots of people that woke up. I have a close friend that woke up at the same time as me. And when he woke up to the Jews' involvement and control of our government, how they control our government and how they've been systematically anti-white and how they incite all of the different races against each other, one of my friends who woke up at the same time as me packed his bags and moved to a white area and said, "I'm going to run." And I go on the road to different places, and a lot of people approach me as if I'm the one answer to all of these problems, that I'm somehow going to liberate our people from the Jews. And I say right now, those of you that want to keep your heads down and say, okay, Pat or someone else is out naming these Jewish crimes against humanity or these crimes against our country, I can't do this alone. I can't just go around naming the Jew and have you expect me to save the country or Europe or what have you. I'm one man. And right now we have a mindset that someone's going to come and save us. No one's going to come and save us. We have to save ourselves. And we have a massive weapon that no one's wielding. No one's wielding it seriously. And this is Israel's involvement in 9/11, the cover-up of Israel's involvement in 9/11. The only people arrested after 9/11 were Israelis. And this alone, we could wake up all of the MAGAPEDs with this if we just hammered Israel 9/11 truth, Israeli involvement in 9/11. Yeah, Martin Luther says there's no one coming. We have to save ourselves. And I have family over in Europe, and I've got family in Germany and in other places that speak German. And they say, well, Germany's lost, but let's move to Austria. And what I say is, if Germany is lost, if the Germans are ethnically cleansed from Germany, a little country like Austria isn't going to last very long. And once France turns, once England turns, once Germany turns, these little countries like Luxembourg and Austria, they're not going to stand the test of time. Neither will Poland. These countries don't have large enough armies. And what I'm saying is, you can't wait for someone to come and save you. You have to be part of the solution. When I woke up to what the Jews were up to, their attempt to ethnically cleanse Europeans from all of the former colonies in Europe itself, I hit the streets. I started running for office. And I know so many people who are awake. And there's almost none of them are willing to risk anything. I have an acquaintance who has money in the bank, who doesn't have a family, and when they woke up, they ran away. They ran off to white Afghanistan, so to say, somewhere that's very white, where he probably thinks he's going to be safe for a long time. But what about his children? What about when these waves of Jewish incitement of replacement peoples that they bring over come, and these waves start crashing at his doorstep? Eventually, there's not going to be any place to run. You have to remember, the main thing that these people have in mind is the extermination of people that look like me, that look like you. They want white people dead. And this is hard to grasp. And I have non-white supporters too that understand this, and they understand perhaps the crimes that Israel has committed. But everyone's going to have to understand that the Jews have targeted specific ethnicities of people for extermination. This is something you really have to get your brain around. Jews at Georgetown University, at a university in Texas, they openly say that there needs to be no more white people. They're calling for the slaughter of those of us that have survived the sexual revolution and the destruction of our families and the low reproductive rates. They want to finish us off with machetes. These are evil people. These are the same people that are ethnically cleansing Palestine. If you want to see what the future holds for us, if we don't stand up to these tyrants, look at Palestine. Now, Dr. Duke says this a lot, that if you want to know what the future holds for white people, look at what's happening in Palestine. And really, that is the case. Anyone who tries to resist the taking of one of the last towns of whites will literally face a Jewish bulldozer, the same as the Palestinians face. I'm going to look at the chat here a little bit, but yeah, I'm up. I've got a headache from the accident, so I'm awake. We've probably got some European goyim here. And I saw someone from Bulgaria here. Bulgaria isn't safe. Once the Jews have successfully ethnically cleansed Central and Western Europe, they're coming to Eastern Europe, and they're already propagandizing the Western peoples, this new Brazilian population we have that's replacing us, for war with Eastern Europe and Russia. Whether they'll do it through this peaceful ethnic cleansing, if you want to call it that, because you're allowed to hunt white people and they're not allowed to fight back, they'll achieve it through other means. Yeah, so I see Revolutionär B, Germany here, Merkel DDR 2.0. Ich habe gehört, dass diese Frau Merkel angeblich jüdisch sei, dass sie jüdische Herkunft hat auf der Seite seiner Mutter, genetischerweise. Ich weiß nicht, ob das stimmt, aber es passt so zum Bild sozusagen. So who else we got in here? Yeah, they are pushing east now. And the point that I'm making is that a lot of people are waking up, and someone wrote a great book recently that talks about this planned genocide that the Jews have for the whites. And, you know, they and a lot of the people that read this book are moving to Poland, Ukraine, etc. There's no running from this. It's literally, we are in a retreat. I mean, I welcome all people that wish to stand up against Jewish supremacism, and the Chaldeans of Southern California who are Christian, and they look very European, by the way. I was talking at a gas station, and the Chaldean behind the counter knew that the Jews are trying to commit genocide against certain ethnic and religious minorities in the Middle East. I'm sure it wouldn't be that far of a reach to get these peoples that know that the Jews have targeted their groups for extermination. It wouldn't be that far of a reach to get them to admit that the Jews are attempting to also wipe out European-blooded people. So, the name of the book, Mr. Calgary, is Solving 9/11, and it's damning. It talks everything about Silverstein's insurance policy, Odego, the warning that the Jews received, the fact that all of the people that normally show up to work that had dual citizenship with Israel didn't show up that day. The Jew text, so to say, that even Al Franken admits went out and he received. I mean, this is a major tool we have. The largest terrorist attack in the United States history, the Israelis, at the very least, knew it was going to happen. And our media covered up even initial recordings that showed things that pointed towards this. They described the Jews that were dancing and celebrating, and as they said on Israeli TV later, recording the event, they described these Jews as Middle Easterners. These people control our media, and they help brush under the carpet the fact that Israel was central in this terrorist attack, this false flag that was designed to get the United States into war after war after war in the Middle East so Israel could expand and create the refugee crisis that would push them all into Europe. So I'm reading the text here a little bit. Oh, so Dublin, I don't know how long we'll be streaming. I just felt the need to get up and say something. Reading this book, it's amazing. I mean, Larry Silverstein, Odego, the Jewish control of some of the flight control systems, the timing with the military exercise. This wasn't just some random terrorist attack. 9/11 is the reason I joined the Marine Corps. I wanted to get back at the people who had attacked my country. And I'm realizing that these people are the people that run this country, the Israeli lobby, these Zionist Jews. And It's incredible how they've been able to get us to waste our blood and treasure and destroy so many young marriages with these wars. And I mean, 9/11. Reading this book, and I'm looking up the sources. It's was obviously Israel was heavily involved, and Israel at the very least knew what was going to happen and cheered it on as it happened. And this is insane. The fact that the MAGA-peds are pro-Israeli, that the Trump supporters are pro-Israeli, this is something that needs to be remedied. I mean, Trump needs to come clean with this. He needs to start talking about 9/11, which was one of his planks in his campaign platform, was to talk about 9/11, who was behind it. Yeah, William Bullen's book, If So, It Is Great. Yeah, it is. It talks all about Israeli involvement in 9/11. And if we can't get people protesting in front of Israeli embassies and consulates, then there's a problem. There is an Israeli consulate here in San Francisco, and on Nakba Day, or the day of mourning for the Palestinians, where they recognized ethnic cleansing initially that happened in 1948, where all the Palestinians were kicked out of their homes. I saw people protesting there. So it's possible to get people to protest in this area, and the police don't break up the protest. We need to get some sort of national coalition of people that are going to be willing to protest in front of Israeli consulates. You don't have to be a specific race or a specific religion in America to be upset about a false flag attack. And this is something we can unite Americans behind, dealing with who's really responsible for the September 11th attacks of 2001. We need to start talking about this. And I left 9/11 out of my Senate campaign in the spring because I didn't know enough about it, and there was so much misinformation out there. I mean, you've got Hasbara and JIDF injecting stuff about hologram planes and stuff like that into the same way they inject flat Earth into pretty much any discussion of 9/11. And unless we just look calmly at the evidence and start talking about this and develop talking points, I'm going to have my campaign site have signs about Israel did 9/11. They're going to be posters that you can print off. You can order to a print shop. This is normie friendly in that it doesn't have to have anything that mentions specific groups or races. This is just, as Americans, everyone can get behind rejecting the fact that a foreign power carried out a false flag attack on this country and that this foreign power controls our government. So J45 says, why don't people start going out with signs saying Israel did 9/11? That's exactly what I'm proposing here. Let's get out in front of the Israeli consulates, Israeli embassy in DC. I was protesting in front of the Israeli embassy back in August with a sign demanding that Israel turn back over the weapons-grade uranium they stole from the NUMEC facility in Pennsylvania. But this 9/11 thing is so much bigger, but I'm going to have to do a lot more research on this before I will start putting out the talking points, because there is a lot of flat earth tier stuff that the Israelis have put out there to obfuscate the evidence and the arguments. They want us to look crazy when we talk about the Israeli involvement in 9/11, but it's straightforward. The insurance policy Silverstein had, the Odega message system, the Jew text. This stuff is so damning, and it's so easy to prove. And this is more effective even than the USS Liberty. And I pretty much used the USS Liberty as a battering ram to break through the normies' blocks about talking about the crimes of Israel. And this 9/11 stuff is way more powerful. And something like half of all Americans agree that 9/11, the story we got from the media, doesn't check out. So this is something where there is potential for this here. This could be a vehicle of mass awakening. And I don't know why anyone isn't doing it. It seems like people have developed 9/11 truth groups and all that, but they see it as more of a social club. Who knows more facts about proving Israel did 9/11 and that Saudi Arabia, which is a puppet government of Israel, was involved? We need to make this something more than a club. You can't just wait for Christopher Bolin to come around on his tour once a year and then go to the 9/11 truth event and then say, okay, we did our social club thing. This is so much more than that. This is the key to liberating the United States and thus the rest of the world, because we're their mercenary force, from these Jewish supremacists, from the Israeli lobbies. We have to focus on 9/11. We have to tie it in with the Lavon affair, the USS Liberty, and other events which no one will challenge as having been Israeli false flag attacks, and say 9/11 is another example of this. If we let 9/11 fade into the past, like the JFK assassination and the USS Liberty, and 50 years from now, people come out and are unchallenged talking about Israel's role in 9/11, well, the people who would really get angry about that will already be old or have passed on. So we need to focus on 9/11 and Israel's involvement. And like I said, I still have that concussion, so I'm not quite the speaker I normally am tonight, but this kept me up at night. I was just sitting in my bed, tossing and turning, thinking, how come 9/11 hasn't been made into a central point in anyone's campaign? Trump talked about 9/11 truth, but as an abstract term. What I would like to do is really bring 9/11 and Israel's involvement in it to the forefront. This is what needs to be a major talking point. Yeah, the King David Hotel bombing. Yeah, I mean, Israel was founded in terrorism. And even before the formation of their international criminal base, these Jewish supremacists were doing all sorts of terrorism. They tried to poison millions of Germans. I forget the name of the operation. After World War II, they tried to poison the drinking water for many cities. Mr. Peter Pettigrew says, pointing fingers to the dancing Israelis and the box trucks driven by Israelis, urban moving systems. That's a great point. And this is all stuff. If we can meme 9/11 truth, so you memed for me during my 2018 Senate campaign. You memed for Trump when he was running in 2016 because he wasn't openly anti-white, and he, at least we had a hope. There was a silver lining of hope to Trump that he would reverse some of these anti-white policies. Well, and you memed for him. We can meme 9/11 truth. We can meme the Odigo texts. We can meme Silverstein's insurance policy. We can meme the military exercise that made it so the military wasn't ready to intercept the planes that were being used as WMDs. We can meme all of this, at least into the consciousness. And then when it comes up in the election, when we get closer to November 2020, we can draw on that latent presence of the idea of these memes in the people's heads. So we need to start memeing 9/11 truth, and which I've seen a few memes where there's like the Happy Merchant meme next to the Twin Towers or something, but there's better ways to do this. So I see Freeman31, yo, Pat, help me. I don't know what you're asking me to do. Okay, so I see some stuff here that's... Well, Mr. Peter Pettigrew, if you can get him to start holding public presentations and public demonstrations, there need to be angry Americans in front of Israeli consulates and the Israeli embassy in DC demanding the heads of the bastard Jews that did 9/11. Yeah, I agree. J45 says that 9/11 memes need to be as much as NPC memes. Yeah, this stuff, this isn't conspiracy theory. I've been looking into it, and I was hesitant to talk about 9/11 during my campaign because I didn't know enough about it, or I thought I would subscribe to one of the things that's been put out there by misinformation services from Israel. And I was afraid I'd say something that would make me look like I believed in conspiracy theories. But after reading Boland's book and sitting down, and this is one of the first books I've sat down and taken the time to read since I started running for Senate in the fall of 2017. This stuff is not tinfoil territory. This is stuff we need to focus on. We have to really hammer home some of this stuff about 9/11. So with the USS Liberty, we've got the tapes proving the Israeli pilots knew they were talking about an American ship. And we've got the something that's just as strong for Israel's prior knowledge of 9/11, proving that would be the Odigo text messages, Larry Silverstein's insurance policy, all of the Jews that didn't show up to work that day, statistically against the baseline of their presence at these areas that were bombed. This is just statistically impossible that this many Jews wouldn't show up. So I really, first off, or last off here before I go back to bed here, is let me apologize for not having made 9/11 one of the top talking points. I talked about the USS Liberty, the Lavon affair, the NUMEC facility constantly when I was running for Senate. If I had read Boland's book and if I had looked into some more of this 9/11 stuff that's out there, I would have made 9/11 into the issue of my Senate campaign. But I'm going to go back to bed here, guys. I was tossing and turning in my bed, and I thought I need to get up and say something about this. So I'm going to make 9/11 into one of my central planks in my campaign. This is the best way to wake people up, because people that aren't logical, that aren't self-informers, people that are passive learners, you have to get to them through the heartstrings. You have to emotionally strike a chord with them. And 9/11 still, if you can point out who was really behind that, that will still tap into the latent rage of the American people that was there. We saw this after 9/11, and the Jews misdirected it and got us to direct this rage that we felt from the 9/11 attacks at the enemies of Israel in the Middle East, so we could be their proxy forces against them. But it's still there. This is something raw. This is emotional. This is perfect for the memes. There's emotional potential to be tapped in here, and we can wield it. This is the most powerful tool we have in our drawer in terms of liberating this country from the Israeli lobby, and it's 9/11 truth, and I'm not afraid to talk about it anymore. Yeah, so good night, guys. I really hope that you look into some of the stuff. I recommend not just looking at Boland's book. I'm going to read several books on 9/11. Just like when I read about World War II, I read a bunch of books to get the perspective, including, the Hitler's Revolution and the Irving books. But we're not going to go with one book here. I recommend that we all get savvy on 9/11 stuff, and we have some conversations about what the easiest stuff to prove is, what the smoking guns are that we can meme, and that's what we need to focus on. But yeah, use 9/11 like they use the Holocaust, except our narrative about 9/11 is going to be true, unlike this Holocaust myth. So good night, Goyim. God bless, and start looking into 9/11 stuff, because it's not tinfoil. This isn't flat Earth stuff. This is what we need to be talking about. This is going to be more powerful than the USS Liberty, the Lavon affair, and the New Mexico facility incident put together. Have a good night, Goyim.